MOUNJARO Plateau with surgery. Real Housewives of New Jersey weight loss confession with MOUNJARO. Hi, beautiful friends. I'm Elizabeth, Countess of Shopping. I've lost over 108 pounds, having personally been on MOUNJARO, Zepbound, and tirzepatide compound over the last 2+ years. And on today's episode, I want to deep dive into talking about MOUNJARO and Zepbound before, and Wegovy and Ozempic, we're lumping those in, before surgery and stopping MOUNJARO and also MOUNJARO Plateau information. I found this article fascinating. It's actually from People Magazine, and I'll cite all of my sources down below and then the scientific data to go with it too, of Real Housewives of New Jersey, Dolores. You guys know Dolores from Real Housewives of New Jersey fans, but less about that and more importantly, she's getting ready to have some surgery. And I found this so important for us in the GLP-1 community. As an example, Dolores basically, she looks amazing, by the way. Dolores Catania. She'd been on Ozempic and then switched over to MOUNJARO. Her doctor had prescribed it for her, and she stopped taking MOUNJARO about a month before she had a cardiac ablation to minimally invasive procedures for her heart to help make a normal heart rhythm. And so she's fine. But before the surgery, they had her stop GLP-1 medication, which we know. And so she had said, and this is, I think, such an important piece for people who are taking GLP-1 medication that have to stop for one reason or another, but how she was down 20 pounds to get to her goal weight, which was 130 pounds. And no judgment on that. If you're judging that, just stop judgment right there. Don't judge, just listen, because of how it can relate back to your story, is that the reality star admitted that she previously was gaining weight every month, and she got up to 163 pounds before trying Ozempic and then over into MOUNJARO and seeing some results. She said it didn't happen overnight, and Dolores Catania said it didn't come off easily. It didn't come off easy. Catania originally was prescribed Ozempic in 2023 and then switched to MOUNJARO in early 2020. She was prescribed Ozempic in 2021 and then MOUNJARO 2023. And so she was talking about how she's at a really bad weight plateau with this, and she's gained 20 pounds as a result of stopping the medication. And that the weight gain could be because of her heart medications also, probably with that. And stopping, she said that she gained 20 pounds after her MOUNJARO, quote, stopped working. And so this is the point in which I wanted to deep dive in, because I know many of us over the course of taking GLP-1 medication will be stopping at some point if you think long term. I know I'll more than likely be on some form of GLP-1 medication the rest of my life with the information I have today. That may change, but with the knowledge I have today. And at some point along that, I probably will have to stop to have some sort of surgery, right? And we know eventually, like if you're having a colonoscopy or things like that, because of the aspiration process that can happen if you're under anesthesia, we do have to stop GLP-1 medication because of the delay of gastric emptying. And again, I'm not a healthcare provider. None of this is medical advice. I'm sharing my experience, strength, and hope of losing over 108 pounds the last 2+ years to help you spark a conversation with your doctor, or at least be thinking about these things as you go through your daily life. But I think that something that's super, super important with this is one, stopping medication before surgery, and then two, the plateau component of this. Because if you follow, you guys know, I love Real Housewives. Real Housewives of New Jersey is not necessarily my favorite franchise, but I very much enjoy Dolores on reality TV. And y'all know, I'm like, I don't drink, I don't do drugs, I don't smoke, I don't eat as much anymore. Like I gotta have a vice, and that reality trash TV sometimes, not all the time, sometimes is my vice. And so hearing this about Dolores is because she actively works out and has actively, from what we see on reality television, eats healthy seemingly and things like that. So I found this so fascinating about she's struggling. And part of that struggle is because she's off the medication. And it doesn't say in this People Magazine article if she'll go back on now, but she was I'm assuming she probably will because of the weight gain. And we know that 70% of people do gain weight back after stopping the medication, particularly and so let's go into the scientific part of this, of how taking that example of a MOUNJARO weight plateau with relation to stopping the medication, or And that's where this People magazine article wasn't clear. Was she having a plateau before she stopped the medication, or was the plateau after and then the subsequent weight gain? That was a little unclear to me from the People magazine article. I'll cite it down below. But what I think is more important is the SURMOUNT-4 trial talks about substantial weight regain for participants who stopped taking MOUNJARO, Zepbound, and tirzepatide compound. Those are the same things, just different names within them. MOUNJARO and Zepbound active ingredient is tirzepatide, but people say tirzepatide if they're on the compound sometimes. So to make sure we're talking apples to apples. So people have substantial weight regain for people who stop taking tirzepatide compared to those who continue. The analysis suggests that most weight loss for GLP-1 may be regained within 2 years of stopping MOUNJARO, Zepbound, Wegovy, Ozempic, semaglutide, insert the GLP-1 name in there, if not actively managed. And so for me, that's where I was like, okay, let me do a little bit of digging, because at some point I recognize I probably am also going to have to be like Dolores, and you may too, to stop medication before surgery, whether it is MOUNJARO or Ozempic or Wegovy or whatever, that you're going to probably have to stop. At some point, feasibly, can we predict that out in the next 5 years, 10 years if we continue to take these medications? Which statistically speaking, a lot of us won't continue to take these medications. I'm probably an anomaly that I do think I will, because I already have for the last 2+ years without stopping. But within that, and I know many of you in my free encouragement group, which by the way, my free encouragement group is not on Facebook anymore. It's not, it's completely on my own website, in which the accountant and I have built on countessofshopping.com/group. I'll link that down in the description link below. In that group, we've talked about surgery, of people, of how they've stopped and what techniques have worked well for them. But here's some of the aggressive lifestyle interventions, whether it's surgery stopping you, or the finances, or insurance is cutting you off, but I'm lumping it into before surgery, of why I think some of these tips are helpful. But also at the end of the day, and if you come from the background, I was morbidly obese, I tried most of these tips. I literally do need a GLP-1 and GIP-1, 2 hormone receptors in Zepbound and MOUNJARO tirzepatide, whereas Wegovy, Ozempic, and semaglutide are just GLP-1, 1 hormone receptor. Why these tips didn't necessarily, I tried them and they didn't work, which is what, and I felt like I was trying, it wasn't a lack of trying. So I want to give context on this stuff, because I do think it's really important. It is really important. We do, and Eli Lilly tells us in our literature with our MOUNJARO and our Zepbound, we do need to make 2 permanent lifestyle changes, which with our food and with physical activity. We do. And you can take that with Ozempic and Wegovy too. We've got to make these permanent lifestyle changes. If we don't, we're going to be up a creek without a paddle, because there's other scientific things that, for me, it's not that the medication stops working, but we know, because the data tells us, at that 72-week mark, when we hit it for Zepbound and MOUNJARO and tirzepatide compound, that there's a setting point. For semaglutide folks, it's earlier than that. It's in the 50-ish week mark. I'm forgetting how much, if it's 52 or 55 or whatever, but it's in the 50-ish week mark, hitting that setting point for Wegovy, Ozempic, and semaglutide folks. It's less. Eventually, the data tells us we hit the set point. And so having a foundation, that you've built a foundation of health and lifestyle changes, is where this is important, i.e. mindfulness, paying attention to being hungry and full. That for me is something I still continue to do. Right now, as I'm filming this, it's 1 o'clock. It is a day and a half after I've taken my shot, so I have peak appetite suppression. And so it's 1 o'clock. I haven't eaten anything today. I've had coffee and water and some my LMNT electrolytes, but really nothing else. I'm hungry though. My body's like, I'm really hungry. And I was like, I have got to film this video, and then I'm going to go have a really bodaciously big, high volume, nutrient dense focused food on vegetables and fruits. And I will be mindful when I'm eating not to eat quickly. Do you guys have this? Of eating too quickly? I still fall into that trap with GLP-1, but because my portions were this big, now they're this big, it's hard for me. Do you guys have this? It's still a process in mindfulness for me to be slow down. I don't have to eat quickly. Enjoy and savor my food. My therapist worked really hard with me on the concept of savoring, and what does that encompass? Savoring food. I'm not trying to wolf it down. And so for me, that's old tapes, old habits, old behaviors. That is straight out of my morbid obesity book of eat as much as I can, as copious amounts of food as quickly as I can. And I can't do that on GLP-1 medication. But when stopping the medication, that skill set matters even more of being mindful with food and mindful to hunger cues and mindful to fullness cues. We know that it takes 20 minutes to feel full, typically. And so being slow and intentional with that 20 minutes while I'm eating. Because I can still overeat on GLP-1 medication. I don't know about you, but I definitely can. And then it's painful. I frequently will get tummy issues, or I feel like I'm gonna throw up, or I'll get acid burn if I eat too much, which on Zepbound 15 milligrams, I've been on the highest dose for well over a year now. That very much can happen. Now, part of that is focusing on nutrient-dense food and minimizing processed food. I did recently a Costco grocery haul and a Wegmans grocery haul. I love doing Zepbound grocery hauls to show like here's the food that I'm eating. This is real food, royal living, meeting real life as an active mom and active wife. And it's fascinating to me about people who call out my processed food in which I eat, which my husband and I were laughing. Someone really just got their finger wagging at me about my processed food. And I said, do you see how many fruits and vegetables I'm eating? These substantial lifestyle changes I've made, and if I have some processed food in that mix, it's certainly better than what it used to be. Someone was ripping me a new one recently, and I'm not, I don't really care, like whatever, but about my protein shakes, and I'm like, okay, then you can go eat 13 ounces of shrimp to get the equivalent. I'm making that up, but like for real food, the same amount that are in like protein shakes and things like that. It the point at which I'm trying to make it, I'm butchering it, is the processed food, you do you. But for me, incorporating some processed food in is okay for my standards. But you have to do what's best for you is the point in which I'm trying to make. Um, and then I think working and continuing to work on that of how do we have nutrient dense real foods of fruits and vegetables and proteins and things like that, whether you're plant-based or not plant-based, how you weave that in that's best for you. And being mindful, and I think that's the point at which this person was trying to make for me about my processed foods, of being mindful of that, but they just butchered it in their delivery. Which grace, extra grace, extra grace. Although I did want to recommend an Emily Post etiquette book of you can say things without saying things mainly, but focusing on that nutrient-dense food is important because we need that fiber, particularly if we're getting off these medications for surgery, that the fiber is important. 25 grams to 30 grams of fiber per day for me is recommended from a dietitian. Y'all, if you've ever tracked fiber, tracking calories is hard enough for me. It can be challenging, and tracking protein can be challenging. And then adding on the third dimension of tracking fiber is a whole horse of a different color, but it's been very, very interesting for me, this fiber component of it as well, because it helps with our bowel movements. And on GLP-1 medication, we have either you can have diarrhea or constipation. And if you're constipated, my first question typically for people is, are you having enough like leafy green vegetables and fruits and things like that? Because when I have appetite suppression, you know, the last thing that I want to eat typically is leafy green vegetables and fruits and things. Like I'd rather go for the protein or better, more fun foods, right? You guys like, and that is something I've had to actively work on. But it's such an important skill set, particularly with hitting a plateau or hitting the stopping the medication for some reason. Okay, next one is the high protein, which I feel like I talk about so much till I'm blue in the face about muscle preservation. There's muscle mass loss from GLP-1 weight loss. It's not just Zepbound weight loss, it's substantial weight loss in general. But being full, the satiety of it, and then muscle preservation and spreading protein throughout the day. And that for me has been that's been like year 2 of really getting into protein. For me, year 1 was very much focusing in on putting my fork down when I was full and recognizing those mind-body cues. Then refining, I'm in like my refining era. I feel like I'm in Taylor Swift. I'm in my refinement era of protein, fiber, and nutrient-dense foods, but also adding in that mindful eating. And studies talk about highlighting fiber and protein, prolong satiety, and then it also helps to manage appetite suppression. If I had appetite suppression from having high fiber and high protein previous to GLP-1 medication, I needed the GLP-1 medication for me. Some people can just do that and they're good, right? I am not one of those people. That's why I have to take this medication. And so, but if you have to stop because of surgery, it's really leaning heavily in on that. And for me, knowing, I think eventually I'm going to walk into this, that there's potential rocky waters with that. And that for my mindset, and hearing this from Dolores in this article, the Real Housewives of New Jersey, Dolores cast member, talking about her struggle with it, of how she had so much success and then gaining 20 pounds back, of how that didn't feel good. And recognizing that that can be part of it for if you're having a surgery, that you can have weight gain in that. And that's just one of the things you have to lump in with having surgery, I think, and making that more normalized as well for me. Now, I think mindset really does matter, and you can go into the mindset of, I'm not going to gain any weight and I'm going to continue. I do, but also, is there not a realistic component of this too, when the data overwhelmingly tells you more than 70% of people gain the weight back? Even if it's just for a pocket, right? And I don't know Dolores' situation. Again, I'm using it as an example, but will she go back on GLP-1 medication, right? The other component of this is physical activity, of doing recommended 150 minutes of moderate intensity activity per week. Y'all, that's, if you divide that into 7 days, that's more than 20 minutes a day. Are you actively doing moderate intensity activity for more than 20 minutes in a day? It doesn't have to be consistently, but are you doing that over the course of the day? That's one component of it. And then for weight maintenance, post GLP-1, they recommend a higher volume of exercise, 200 to 250 minutes of moderate intensity physical activity. 250 minutes. Sorry, my chair's squeaking. Hopefully you guys, it's driving me nuts over here. Be quiet, chair. I'm trying to talk about moderate exercise here. We're trying to get swole. That is 35 minutes, 30 to 35 minutes per day, a moderate. Every single day, by the way. That's saying if you worked out 7 days a week. Every single day. And then adding on top of that for weight maintenance, like keeping it even Steven for your weight not to gain, strength training on top of that. So post-treatment analysis from 2024 found the continuing exercise after stopping GLP-1. It was called the S-LITE study, Synergy Effect of Appetite Hormone for GLP-1. It was a liraglutide and exercise on maintenance of the low-calorie diet. They found that combining a GLP-1 with supervised exercise program was superior for weight maintenance. So having a supervised exercise program, so does that mean you need to hire a trainer? Having some supervision on that. Or when do you call in the personal trainer to help with that? It's talking in here, which I find that fascinating, by the way. So it's S-LITE study about how having the low-calorie diet with supervised exercise program to help with weight maintenance. And then it also goes in here talking about sleep, self-monitoring, stress management, professional guidance and support networks, studies. The Amada Health gave real-world data indicating lifestyle modifications, diet, exercise, sleep, stress management can lead to successful weight maintenance after GLP-1 discontinuation with minimal weight regain to trial data where lifestyle was less intensive, which is why I go back to, for everybody on GLP-1 medication, when I do every single one of these videos for the most part, I talk about we have to do 2 things. Eli Lilly tells us in the literature to make permanent lifestyle changes with our food and with working out. Learn the skill set now. And I'm saying that with such intensity also for myself that I will watch this playback and be like, learn the skill set now with food and practicing that while I have this amazing tool, because at some point I'm not going to have this tool if I have surgery, which is more than likely probably going to happen if I have to have colonoscopy or any other surgery for that matter. So having this safety net of learning the skill sets with the safety net with GLP-1 medication for working out, like even just last night, working out when I didn't want to, because feelings aren't, one of my business coach says, F the mood, follow the plan. The plan is to weight train and weight lift 3 to 4 days a week and everyday walk or get in that moderate exercise, at least 20 minutes per day. And that I count house chores for me also do count for that. So if I'm like managing my household with like laundry and other things and cleaning up and moving, like I count that as part of mine. Because I'm moving and I can tell I switched over, by the way, to the Fitbit 6. I'm loving it because I only have to charge it not often. I think it's like once a week. I haven't had to charge it yet and I've had it for many, many days. My Google Pixel Watch, I had to charge every day. I'm testing a different ring. If you notice, I'm not wearing my Oura ring, but I'll do that in another video. But so going back to the point at hand, is talking about these lifestyle support, but it's also talking about having someone else to help you. Like this is why my free encouragement group, hello, countessofshopping.com/group, totally free. It's off of Facebook, having that accountability. So if you do stop your medication, you have a support system already built in. You're already locked and loaded. It's free. And the Count and I paid over $1,000 of our own pocket money to build this, to help people have a support group. So you have no finances then don't matter of like, oh, I have to pay monthly dues. No, you don't. This is totally free. And it's private and it's not on Facebook because Facebook is shutting down GLP-1 groups. My group already got my group already got shut down, and many other groups got shut down and they were not coming back. Mine thankfully came back, but I'm not investing all this time because this has happened multiple times. I digress. Let's go back over. It's talking also in here about gradually tapering off. If you do have to stop before surgery, that's why working with a healthcare provider is so important. I'm not a healthcare provider. Making sure you're talking to your healthcare provider on this. And then also recognizing too long-term solutions for you for weight maintenance before you get off. Having a plan in place is really, really important. And if you are hitting that weight plateau, some people say, oh, get off the medication and then restart again. That is where I think sharing some of this data is important for you to figure out what's best for you with your healthcare provider. Because some healthcare providers are like, stop the medication, then come back. I don't subscribe to that philosophy, but that's me. And more information, as we get more information, I may very well change that opinion too. So, and there's so many of you who have been successful without having weight gain as part of this because you really, really worked on those skill sets. But for me, I've worked on these skill sets. I also need additional medication, and there's no shame in that game. I wouldn't shame a heart patient for having high blood pressure, or for taking high blood pressure medication and taking that for the rest of their life. Like I wouldn't shame somebody for taking obesity medication either. So hopefully this gives some clarity. I've thrown a lot at you today, and I did that intentionally by design to spark a bunch of different ideas because we are also different, and obesity is a wide hoop to jump through, and there's lots of different ways you can manage obesity. Lots. That could be stopping this medication. That could be stopping and restarting. That could be like, there's a lot of different ways you can do this. And hopefully it came through that I'm not having judgment. I am throwing these out for you to pick what's best for you and your healthcare provider. For me, I need to work out today. I need to go lift today, and I need to walk today. And I'm going to have lunch after this, which I'm really excited about. High volume, super focused. I bought these big pickles. I'm really excited to have one of these big pickles. They're not high sugar pickles. I'm like, I got them from Costco. Costco pickles. In addition to some high protein too. Our emoji of the day is going to be a TV screen because I talked about TV, and I do emojis of the day to get to know you better because I care, and the repetition of seeing your name pop up over and over again will help me to get to know you. In addition, I will pray over you. It's like our bat signal doing emoji of the day. If you don't believe in prayer, I'll uplift you in positive thought because all are welcome at the Countess of Shopping table. And your accountability question, what are you doing today to move you closer to your goals? My sweet friends, be kind to yourself, be kind to others. I'm Countess of Shopping, including in my comments, by the way. I saw someone, one of you, by the way, it kind of hurt my feelings of someone was dogpiling on something not nice, and then other people who comment, who I actively, I'm like, oh, they're my friends, were like dogpiling in. I was like, I'm like such a loyal friend, like such a loyal friend. Anyways, I don't know why. Some of you would be like, Elizabeth, stop being such a sensitive bird. But I'm like, legitimately, like, you are my besties. If you've made it to this point in the video, you're a bestie. You're a best. So anyways, I say that all to be, I need to go talk to my therapist, clearly. I'm being too sensitive. Be kind to yourself, be kind to others. Lots of grace. I'm Countess of Shopping, count my blessings because life is delicious. Let's do this. Let's continue to live our best lives, live our best summer, and continue to up level. These medications give us so much ability to be the best version of ourselves, and truly that's what I am focusing in on. Like, how can I be a better version of myself today? And not being so dang sensitive to comments. Okay, I love you guys so much. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye, sweet friends. I'm gonna go have, by the way, my Clean Simple Eats protein shakes. Use the discount code QUEEN. Bye, guys.